Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. If you're just joining us here, we've had a great conversation today. We've talked about insurance with Irv Cohen. We've talked about a listener who called and said, I don't know if I'd want to live in a homeowners association. And we talked about those issues. We want to talk next about the idea, is the client always right?
And I also want to mention we have a new setup. We have a Where You Live hotline that you can call with your comments and questions, and you can leave a message. A lot of callers to our show will say, well, I want to ask, they'll tell our producer, I want to ask a question, but I don't want to be on the air. I'm too nervous. And so you don't have to be on the air. You can leave us a message at 952-224 2668, and we'll address your question at a later date.
And we're going to be doing that for at least the rest of this summer here. So we will be taking those calls during the week. We will take those messages, and then we will address them on next week's show.
That's right.
So if this is Sunday morning, you can't call because we won't be in to take that call live.
Yeah, we're pre-recorded. But
we will be soon.
Yeah, when will we be live again, Gene?
That will be at the great Minnesota Get-Together, the Minnesota State Fair. And that'll be for two live shows, Sunday, August 28th, and Sunday, September 4th. Folks, we're going to have thousands of dollars of giveaways. We've got some fun things planned for not only our audience there at the State Fair, but also for the listeners who will be calling in. We've got more details on that as we get closer to the fair.
We'll be at the 1280 AM The Patriot booth, correct?
Yes, and I think that's somewhere by Machinery Hill.
Okay.
And so we'll give you more details as we get closer to that date. It's hard to imagine. Anytime I start thinking of the State Fair, I think that the summer's over. You know.
Well, it is, Gene. Yeah. That's why you think that.
I know.
Labor Day is the official end of summer.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get into our next topic here, and that is we want to throw out the idea or question: is the client always right? You know, we've heard stories of homeowner associations that let go various and sundry vendors. But do vendors ever let the client go? And if so, why? And I'm here to tell you that is probably an occurrence I'm seeing more and more.
Oh, really?
Yes. When you have, you would think that with the economy being the way that it is, I think that there's some notion that some consumers have, not a lot, but some consumers have, that, you know what, everybody ought to be grateful that they get any business at all.
Yeah.
And so they expect vendors to just belly up and to just be willing to take whatever is given their way. But
So what are some of the reasons that a vendor would fire a customer?
Yes, let's talk about some of those things. What are some of the issues, the big issues that cause a vendor to say, I don't know if I want to continue on in that relationship? The first one that comes to mind is a lot of internal strife within the board. Because, I mean, we've all been in that situation over the years where you end up getting a conflicting message because you have one homeowner who wants something done one way.
A board member. Mm-hmm.
You have another board member who wants something done another way. And even though there's might be 5 board members, 3 out of the 5 agree, 2 don't, one of those 2 that are the dissenters continues to, if they're upset, I've seen a number of times where that person is so upset they say, well, if the board is still bent on doing this project, now they want to see that project stopped at all costs, and I mean all costs. And so I've seen strife going to the point where that board member tries to undermine the service being provided by the vendor. Yes.
So we're talking about, originally you were talking about conflicts among the board that cause them to give conflicting messages to their vendors, and that we've experienced that as managers. One person's telling you one thing, someone else is telling you another thing. It can be very difficult to operate. But now you're saying that sometimes people get so upset, board members, that they will actually undermine the vendor and the work they're doing.
I had a situation a few years ago where this happened with the board president and then the board president's spouse. The board the board had someone doing the cleaning in a condominium association.
All right.
This person did not like what was happening with this particular vendor.
The board president,
and not though the spouse in this case, and and this individual, after the cleaner went out and had cleaned the windows and everything, would go out purposely and mess things up again.
Is this because she couldn't convince her husband to fire the guy?
Well, it was the other way around, but the husband.
You really?
Yes, the husband.
Now, wasn't that a sexist thought I had? I immediately,
yes, it was.
I immediately assumed it was the woman.
I forgive you.
All right, thank you.
But the point is here's someone who doesn't like something that's being done. Now, the adult in the homeowner association would go to the point and say, would go to the board and say, I don't want this because.
Sure.
And I have some, and they would strengthen their argument instead of.
With facts.
Yes.
And photos and reason.
But those things were not present, and so there's undermining that goes on, and that's extreme, of course.
Sure.
But what you said with there being strife, one board member saying move ahead, another one saying no, don't do it this way.
Yeah,
that's confusing, and so. A vendor, a contractor, gets to a point where it says, I don't think I can make anybody happy, and wants to remove themselves.
Or it might even cost that vendor more money than what he anticipated because he's trying to do this. The next item on your list, I want you to explain this to me. Boards constantly under recall assault are sometimes fired by their contractor. What does that mean?
Well, again, we're talking about the same type of thing. We're talking about a situation where there's a lot of strife. But in this particular case, you have the board that's united, but the board hasn't particularly, in this case, I think, done their due diligence to see if a majority of the homeowners agree with moving ahead with the project.
Okay, it requires homeowner approval, but the board hasn't.
No, it doesn't. I mean, we know that.
Okay, even in cases where it doesn't require prior approval.
Let's be specific here.
Thank you.
The board members of an association say the retaining wall at the monument sign needs to be rebuilt.
Okay.
The cost is $1,500.
Okay.
They've got $10,000 for maintenance that year.
Okay.
A lot of homeowners say, no, we don't want $1,500. Those timbers can stay there another couple years.
We don't want the money spent that way.
We want the money spent elsewhere. Does the board of directors have the authority to enter into monthly contracts in the operation of the association? Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
But and so you may have the board that says we're all in agreement in having this project done, but you have a lot of homeowners who say no, we would rather have sidewalks done over on this part of the property, and so homeowners continually assault the board. And so you need one thing that vendors take a look at is. Again, is there a lot of strife? In this case, not just between the board, but still within the homeowners association. Sure. And there is something to be said, even though the board has the authority, for them to make sure that they're really understanding what the strong wishes and desires of the majority of the people in the association want.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yep, it can happen.
Yeah, and so we've got a few other that we can mention here too. And is the client always right, or are there reasons why vendors will say to the client, finally, we're going to let you go? And we're going to cover those, but by looking at the clock, we're going to need to take another break. But when we come back, we'll continue on with that. And you're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony right here on AM 1280 The Patriot. We'll be back.